Okay, so welcome everyone. It would be great if everyone can share a quick intro about himself. So we can do it like in around 2 or 3 minutes. So yeah, quick heads up for everyone would be great so we can know each other.
Yeah, that's great. Nice to meet you all, guys. This is Hari Prakash. You can call me Harry. I'm from India, and then my time's around 8:40 now, night. And then I work as a 3D artist as a contract in ILG, working for US residential projects, developing interactive housing units for the apps. Actually, we do some of projects with Unreal. Most of the projects we always using typical lighting only. So we always wanted to learn more of this games and cinematic environment lights. So I hope this is the good place to come. Nice to meet you, Karim. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Karim. I am Mohammad Sifat from Bangladesh. I am now working as a level designer and lighting artist in a game studio in Singapore. So, and I started my career from 2022, but I face many problem in lighting, especially lighting. I face a many problem, and in 2 years, I also participate in Rockies Award, but every time I get C grade. So this is very painful for me. So for this, I try to uh, get improvement for lighting. So I think in this course, so for this, I admitted this course, and inshallah, I try to uh, make best lighting. And my favorite company is Supercell and Clash of Clans, and Clash of Royale is my favorite game. And I have a dream to go to the Supercell or Supercell company as a level designer and lighting artist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for it.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? Yes, you can. Okay, hi. My name is Batos. I live in Canada, in Vancouver. Right now it's 7 a.m. here, so I'm drinking my morning coffee. Yeah, I have a background in architecture. I work in architectural visualizations for many years. A few years ago, I switched into games. I really enjoy working in real time in Unreal Engine. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to explore more lighting. I watched Karim's YouTube tutorials, really like them, and yeah, hope to learn way more.
Thank you so much.
Hey guys, myself Nelson. I'm from India. I'm a 3D artist and Unreal artist almost for 6 years. I'm always inspired with gaming. I'm already searched 2 years for a best lighting course. Finally, I just found Karim, and yeah, I'm here. I just joined to learn with you all guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi everyone. My name is Anna. I am from Russia, but I live in Czech Republic for a really long time. And yeah, I work as a 3D artist, mostly in automotive sector. So pretty much I kind of do lighting design for cars and some product design currently. So yeah, so that's that. I also have been doing virtual reality for 5 years, so that was fun. And yeah, I just love lights, so that's why I'm here. So, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, if you can, yeah, if you want to introduce yourself. Not sure if. Maybe it's still a bit early for her as well. So yeah, or maybe there's an issue with Mike. So yeah, anytime you want to introduce yourself, you can do that in chat or just I'm not sure if there is raise hand here in Zoom, but yeah, whatever. We can do it. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining, and I'm so excited to have you here in this class. And we have a lot to share about lighting and a lot of technical aspects and artistic aspects. So yeah, in our first session, it's very important to have a solid base and fundamentals, but from technical side and like more of how lighting works actually right now with the new systems for lumen, shadowing, etc. All these principles and foundations are very, very essential to understand how to work with lighting options, settings, etc. So when we understand every settings and the theory behind everything in there, we can then start playing with lighting as we want and break any rules and any like physically based settings, we can break it, but based on our understanding. So yeah, first of all, I will want to have a quick overview about project settings. So currently I'm using the Electric Dreams environment, and it's for free. You can use it to like start lighting it as your first one, or you can use any other environment, whether you have your own environment or any other free resources or paid resources. It's really up to you, and you can use whatever you want. So first of all, to configure the project settings to have the maximum efficiency and maximum results we want to get from lighting, we have to go first to edit project settings, and we have a lot of options to discuss in here. It's under rendering section. Let's actually maximize it. And let's scroll down. Basically, some of these options or most of these options are turned on by default for any Unreal Engine 5 project. So it's only if you are migrating from an old UE4 project, you might notice or have a lot of these objects or options turned off. So you will need to reconfigure all of them. But I will go one by one to ensure that we are all on the same page. Um, sorry, yeah, could just a second.
Oh, yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's probably her speaker. Yeah, so first of all, to ensure we are using Lumen properly, we have two methods of using Lumen, either software ray tracing or hardware ray tracing. If you have a graphics card which supports ray tracing, which will most of us have nowadays, basically an RTX will afford that. Any version of RTX will afford that. So we have for sure to use hardware ray tracing if we want maximum quality possible. It's not the best performance for games, um, despite it's using in some games, but it's not necessarily to be used in all games. So to enable or to know how to switch between software and hardware ray tracing, as they are both using Lumen for global illumination and Lumen for reflections, this has to work with, in the hardware ray tracing category, there is support hardware ray tracing. This has to be turned on, and if it's turned on, it then will turn on this option. basically this option is turned off, but when you enable this one first, you will be able to enable this one to ensure that you are using hardware ray tracing. So enabling only this option may use hardware ray tracing or may not use it. So it really depends on the hardware then. But to ensure we are using it, we have to enable this option as well. Use hardware ray tracing when available and support hardware ray tracing. There is ray lighting mode. This version I'm using, it's 5.2. I will switch it right now, but let's change some settings first. Ray lighting mode, it's the way that the rays that are coming from Lumen or from the lighting is calculating. Surface cache, basically, if we wanted to go here, let Lumen, there is surface cache. Let's, for example, grab any object, any static mesh from here. So yeah, as you can see now, surface cache is trying to represent this mesh in a very, very like low res mode. So this is the difference between lit and Lumen here, surface cache. It's very low in resolution. And basically what is Lumen doing is it when it tries to represent it in a very low res mode, it's capturing this data, the color, to represent it in the global illumination solver. So it's capturing the base color, which has very low resolution currently, and represented in GI. And that's what we actually see in that GI, in shadows specifically. Sorry. So when we increase the resolution for these objects, Lumen will start to be more complex to calculate, but it will be more precise. So for example, if I went here, let's go to rendering. And if we selected headlighting for reflections, we minimize it. Instead of surface cache, let's select headlighting for reflections. It will not change right now because we are in the surface cache mode, but we will notice that in lumen scene mode. So this is the difference. As you can see, even on the ground, it reads more details. It has much better details to preserve. And if I try to get closer, for example, like this, headlighting for reflections have much, much better details. And it does that for all assets that is in the environment. So that's why this option, and this is not like working with with software ray tracing. So headlighting for reflections is only for hardware ray tracing, and that's why it's so heavy. So this is the first option we want to change to ensure which mode we want. You can keep it for surface cache here in the project settings, as this option could be changed in post-process volume. So you can control each area individually if you want, and have like an area, or globally it could be surface cache and other local areas when you want very high reflections and more precise details. You can use headlighting for reflections. There is another one in newer versions in 5, I think starting from 5.5 and 5.6. It's called headlighting, just headlighting. And the difference is in headlighting for reflections, it like as we hover over it, the ray lighting or the rays that are coming from the lighting, it's calculated more, or it's added more in reflection pass, not in the GI pass. And in headlighting, these rays of lighting are increased or more accurate in both the GI mode or GI pass and reflections pass, which makes it much like better in quality, but it's consuming more time, or it's very, very complex to calculate. So of course, headlighting is the top notch we can use in Lumen to have the best possible quality. And number two is headlighting for reflections. If we want to use more performant and more friendly solution, and the cheapest one is surface cache. That's basically about ray lighting mode. This is how the lighting rays are like interacting with the objects in the environment. There is another option called high quality translucency reflections. This is much better for translucent materials. Let me check if there is any material instance for like water. Yeah, probably water drips. Let me check if this material is translucent. Yeah, it's translucent. So let's, for example, add it on basically a plane or so. Here it is. Yeah, I'm just trying to see what will happen in here. This is water drip material. It's more of like chrome or mirror. So if we are here in rendering and we try to enable this mode high quality translucency reflections, it's projecting much better reflections. And this could be included for glass, for water, for any translucent surface. It will be much, much better. And if it's using high quality or high headlighting for reflections, it will be even better. So this is surface cache. It's not very noticeable here, but if we are using this one and try to switch between surface cache, as you can see here, it's better in the bounces and specular highlights in this area. Surface cache and headlighting for reflections. So it's producing or generating much better reflections in here. But of course, it's not cheap. It's consuming more from performance. So this option is very good to have overall quality and much better quality, but it's not very, very good for performance, except in some areas when you have more budget and you have better, like you have a more buffer for having better quality, and you can sacrifice some time or some milliseconds from performance. So yeah, this is basically about hardware ray tracing options. And if we are not using all of these options, like for example, if this one is disabled, as you can see, these two are disabled, this could be used as well. But you have here the software ray tracing mode. So if this is turned off, we can switch directly to this one, which will have two options: detailed tracing and global tracing. And what does that actually mean is, let's, for example, I will open the main map for electric dreams environment to see how this affects the project or the map in general. But mainly, the difference is detailed tracing is depending on the mesh distance field. So basically, mesh distance field is like a proxy mesh that simulates the boundaries and the mesh in general. Just a second. But it's a bit detailed. So detailed tracing is using the mesh distance field, and we can see it from here show. visualize there is mesh distance fields. As you can see here, it's more detailed. And Lumen is using this like proxy meshes to simulate how it would work and reduce or generate the GI data. But the global tracing, which is the other option, we open it. Global tracing is not using mesh distance field. It's instead using global distance field, which is not very, very detailed as the mesh distance field. As you can see now, yeah, we can switch between them. Mesh distance field. This is mesh distance field. This is global distance field. So it's global, detailed, global, detailed. So the software ray tracing mode, for example, in this one will depend on the detailed tracing. And if it's set to global tracing, it will depend on this mode. So that's basically differences. Of course, global distance field is much better for memory, it saves more memory, but it's not very accurate in having much better details in there. So we can switch between between them, depending on our performance and the budget for memory for our project. So I can enable support hardware ray tracing again, keep this for surface cache, and just turn this off here in project settings because this option could be added or adjusted in post-process volumes as well. So we will depend on it from the post-process volume. And then we have another trick that, like for example, if we have decided to use hardware ray tracing for all the project and we are not going back to software ray tracing, we can then turn off this object. So I will turn it off. As you can see, software ray tracing mode is disabled and we only now have support hardware ray tracing and the hardware ray tracing modes. So we can turn off this one. It will save us a lot of memory because like the distance field meshes or mesh distance field is taking a lot from memory. So either if we are not using it, we are using hardware ray tracing, this will still take from the memory and project size because this is generated on its own. It's automatically generated in the engine, but once it's generated, it's added in there. Whether you are not using it or using it, it doesn't really matter. So if we are not going to use it, it's better to turn off generate mesh distance field. So yeah, that's basically about the differences between hardware ray tracing and software ray tracing and options. Then we have in shadows, we have two ways of shadowing here in this option, but we have actually other three types of shadowing. We have ray traced shadows, which we are not using nowadays because it's not compatible with nanite meshes. And we instead use virtual shadow maps. There is also the pre-computed shadows, which is used in the baked lighting. This is not commonly used these days as well because baked lighting or pre-computed lighting is not used in all projects. It's used only in some like not low-end projects, but on platforms that doesn't support all of these fancy features like Lumen and next generation features. So it could be used on mobile, VR, etc. So pre-computed shadows could be added as a type of shadows or a shadowing method. And we have the distance field shadows. This is generated with the shadow maps or the shadow map method. And the shadow map method is called, it's also called cascaded shadow maps. This is the older or the previous version of the shadowing, which is not compatible with very, very high poly meshes. So this is not okay, or it's not good to use this option, shadow maps, with nanite or very high quality meshes. It's better to use virtual shadow maps because it can handle this type of very complex geometry in and even on distance. So yeah, these are the types of shadowing. We have to use virtual shadow maps to have the most compatible like features with Lumen and Nanite, and even with like word partition, big environments like this. And here in the hardware ray tracing section, we don't need to enable ray trace shadows. And if it's enabled in your project, please turn it off because it causes a lot of issues, especially with nanite meshes. You can turn it on lighting actors themselves. Each light actor, if you want it specifically for some light actors, you can turn it on. But it's not recommended to keep it on because it's not very performant as well. Same goes for ray traced skylight. We don't need to use it. Bus tracing, you can enable it if you want, but this is only if you are going to use it or like render some frames with it or have it like preview to compare between your Lumen quality or results and bus tracing. Basically, bus tracing is somehow it's kind of similar to offline rendering, so it's not real-time rendering. I think they are like searching and developing a new way to add real-time bus tracing. I'm not sure if it's added already or it started to be added like probably 5.7 or in the development branch, but they are working on it to offer real-time bus tracing, which will be a game changer for sure because it produces very high quality, and having that real time will be very good to have very high quality of cinematics or trailers without the need to wait for hours to render the shots. I don't think it will be very good for like at the beginning for games. Of course, it will still have a lot of performance issues and it will not be very stable. But while we are going with the development of Unreal Engine, I'm pretty sure it will be very, very good for games later on. And then we have Nanite. For sure, we have to keep Nanite turned on to support Nanite meshes. There is allow static lighting. Make sure to turn it off if you are using Lumen and will not use any pre-computed lighting, because turning this off will ensure you have better ambient occlusion that could be calculated by Lumen on its own, and it will have better global illumination or indirect lighting in general. So ensure to have this option, turn it off. And then let's get down here. This option for extend default luminance range in auto exposure settings, ensure it's turned on. It should be turned on. Not sure if it could be changed in here, but this should be turned on as always to have more accurate physically based values for exposure. So we have to ensure this option is turned on. And for anti-aliasing method, you can use or switch between TAA, the temporal anti-aliasing, or temporal super resolution, the new one that is designed for UE5, and it works better. It actually have better performance, even with very high density or very complex environments. But quality-wise, it's not on the same quality level as the TEA. And in rendering, usually we turn it off in movie render queue and use like temporal sample count or temporal accumulation on top of each other to have much better sharp like frames, and in motion blur we can have much better motion blur. So basically you can keep it to TSR for now. so we have better performance, especially for this such complex environment. Light units, usually we will use lumens because you can refer to it. So for example, if you want to replicate a lamp in real life, you will have like, should be like in lumens or watt, and you can replicate the value from watt to lumens. I think 100 watts equals, I do believe it equals 1600 lumens. So it's not converted automatically to candelas. So basically, these physically based units, it's better to use lumens, and you can switch it per lighting actor. So it's not really a big deal. And as you can see here, there's no lux. Lux is used for directional lights only. And I will discuss the differences in that when we start to know about the physically based lighting units. Yeah, as you can see here, this is not an option we want to mess with. There is another option, and it's related to like increase the reflections and make the reflections a bit sharp, which is the G buffer format. Basically, or by default, it's set to default, but it's better to set it to high precision normals. This will increase the rendering time in general for all scenes and will not make it very performant. And for games or most projects, this has to be default. But for very high quality projects or cinematics that you want the maximum out of the engine, you can set it to high precision normals and you will get very, very high results. So that's basically for GI, shadows, reflections, settings. And we have here as well in platforms, we have Windows. It's better to set the shader model 6 to be turned on, turn off shader model 5 if it's turned on, and default RHI set it to DirectX 12, not DirectX 11 or default, so you can have access to the new features of Lumen and Nanite. So yeah, that's about project settings in a very like detailed insight. I will restart later because to I want to actually switch the engine version. So yeah, I can close the project here. I'm not sure why it created another version of it, but it's fine. I'm using this one. Right click on it and I can switch Unreal Engine version. I actually have 5.7, but let's use 5.6. And you are welcome to use any version you want. It's totally fine. But in 5.6, we have better mirror reflections and refractions overall, so you can have more accurate results in your scenes. So yeah, I've switched it and will open it. When it's opened, yeah, it might ask you to rebuild. If you hit yes, it might work and it might not. Yeah. So for now, what we can do here, because this issue is very common, you can open with Notepad and yeah, if the plugins that they mentioned is not listed here, so you can reopen the project, hit no, and you can proceed with the project. It should work in this way. Yeah. And if it's not like, yeah, we have this notepad. If the notepad here has specific plugins that is not built or like compiled for a new version, you can go here and search for like the plugin name and in enabled, switch this true to false and save it. This will disable the plugin and the error that you will get will not be existing again. So yeah, these are two ways to open your like corrupted projects if you have this issue. And let's keep it compiling shaders. And while it's compiling the shaders, we can have any questions if you have any, because there is a lot of technical information have been added in this time. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the chat or unmute yourself and talk. Ask it. I guess we don't have any questions.
Karim, I have one doubt.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, you are saying that heat lighting reflection, right? In the surface catch and heat light reflection, it will reduce the FPS or what in a gaming wise?
Which
Because
one?
you said it's
Yeah, yeah, which one is better for games, right?
yes,
Surface Cache for sure.
surface catch. Okay.
Yeah, because it's cheaper and it's not using a lot from resources, especially
Okay.
with big environments. But
Mm-hmm.
you can still use headlighting for reflections in
Mm-hmm.
very, very specific areas because it could be configured using post-process volume. So if you
Okay.
have local post-process volumes, you can
Mm.
switch this option
Okay.
as you want. Yeah.
Got it. It's same for a high quality transparency, right? The one you
Yeah.
check the.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do that in
Mm.
post-process
Mm-hmm.
volumes as well.
Okay. Okay. Okay, man. Thanks.
No worries.
Hey Karim, I have one general question.
Yeah, for sure.
So if I want to reduce the FPS in games, for example, to work on all the basic computers as well. So what is the maximum or optimal settings to be done according to this lighting setup?
So you want to get the maximum performance or maximum
Yeah,
quality?
performance
Yeah, performance. So
with
basically,
minimal quality. Yeah, quality always we require, but performance also required.
yeah, so basically it will depend on the platform you are targeting. So you can, for example, get very, very good results without Lumen using baked lighting. But this approach, it takes a lot of time in baking and seeing the results, as it's not like happening in real time as Lumen. But you can, for example, I'm not
Mm.
sure how this could be approached, but I think it could be approached via like project, not project settings, but like commands or so per platform. So if you are shipping a game for PC and for mobile, etc., you can have like map that is working with Lumen and other map is not using Lumen, for example. It's using baked lighting. And I guess in some maps as well, I do believe you can have a hybrid model. So mainly it's using baked lighting. And in some areas, for example, you can override the global elimination method and it's using Lumen. So it's quickly or instantly switch between hybrid or two models that you have in your project or environment. So best approach for performance would not be using Lumen. And if you are, or if you have to use Lumen, so you best approach is to use software ray tracing with global tracing or detail tracing. This depends on the memory budgets, not the GPU, because detail tracing and global tracing, they are depending on memory usage. So if you have enough memory for the project and you are not like capped, you can use detail tracing. If not, you can use global tracing, but this doesn't really matter or depend on the GPU time. So basically, it's surface software ray tracing with surface cache, and you can still control the quality settings in post-process volume. So you can reduce the resolution for surface cache. You can reduce or like make that distance very close, so Lumen is not rendering. I think that in the software ray tracing, it renders up to maximum of 200 meters, I think, which is around 20,000 units in Unreal. So you can tune it down to be like 100 meters or 50 meters, depending on your game, on your scale, and the overall visibility. And for reflections in newer versions, I think
Okay.
after 5.2 or 5.3, you can split the reflections method. So for example, you can use screen space reflections and Lumen global illumination, or the opposite approach. You can use baked lighting or no global illumination at all and Lumen reflections. So you don't have, like previously, you had to use both like GI and reflections with the same thing. You have to use both of them for Lumen or baked GI and screen space reflections. But you cannot use in previous version or in older versions, you cannot use separate GI solver and separate reflections solver. You have to use make them both options. But now you can use whatever you want. Generally, GI is like more complex to calculate. So you can't use baked GI and Lumen reflections. Or if your scene has a lot of reflective surfaces, water, and like a lot of like translucent objects, I think in this case, Lumen reflections will be very heavily costing. So you can switch to screen space reflections or the regular method of adding sphere reflection probes and bake the reflections. So yeah, you have a lot of varieties in here, but
Okay.
yeah, more performant is not to touch the hardware ray tracing at all, because hardware ray tracing will work only on RTX devices. So
Yeah.
it's not supporting hardware ray tracing, it will not work at all. So software works on both devices. It can work on non-ray traced devices and ray tracing devices.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Karim.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so this plugin has been not working. Yeah, we can disable it. It's SB, I guess. Yeah, SB overthrown. Oops. And I think it's here in cameras as well. Yeah, in plugins. So here in plugins, can cut Control X. This is another option actually to try. So I can move it anywhere else. And let's try to open the project again. It will not take a lot of time compiling the shaders again because it's already compiled. And I just wanted to add a note that I'm running this project on an SSD. It's actually an NVMe. So it's loading much faster than any HDD hard drive. And it's recommended to run the projects nowadays on SSDs or NVMe to have faster loading and faster reading of files, etc. Yeah, it's loading currently.
Okay, Karim, I tried running this project from external HDD, so that won't give the maximum performance, right?
You are using external hard
Yeah,
disk.
yeah.
Actually, this is not recommended even for your hard disk health because it might affect it very fast. It will work, the project will work, but it will not have the like a very fast launch, a very fast loading for the maps, etc. But this will not affect performance. Uh,
Okay,
you might notice some drop in frame rate, but it's not like taking more time to calculate. So
okay.
it's just dropping frame rate. Let's check project settings again to ensure all our settings are set to proper settings. Yeah, here in ray lighting mode, we have this new one, headlighting, and we have the screen traces added. So it's better to keep it as scene color for now. Probably this one could be much better, but yeah, each one has its own pros and cons. You can try to switch between them in project settings, but this option is not added in post-process. So it really depends on your project. You can switch between scene color and anti-aliased scene color with translucency. There is another option as well for ray trace translucent refractions. You can keep it on. It's okay. And in post-process volume, you can control the amount of refraction rays. So you have much better quality. In direct lighting, we have mega lights. We can talk about it later because it's not yet fully supported for now. But basically, mega lights allow you to use more light sources without affecting the performance a lot, but it still has some limitations like shadowing, flickering. It's flickering a lot in shadows, and it's not generating very high quality shadows for now, especially with lots of overlapping lights on the same vertex or pixel. And it's not working very well with hair strands for characters. You can see it's very white, not very white, but it's very bright. So it's not interacting very well with hair strands for characters. So you can enable it or disable it based on your preference. You can enable it from here. You don't need to restart the project. And it could be enabled or disabled by post-process volume. So it's in region. or by lights. You can control it in your lights individually. And currently, it's not supported for directional light as well. So your directional light will not benefit from it. Yeah, they removed the ray traced skylight shadows. And in here, same options. I don't think we have new options in here. So we can then start right away in understanding more about shadows, lighting, etc. I will need to open a new level and remove all these light actors. Yeah, then we have yes, here we go. I can add a quick cube, for example. I just want to talk about some things related to shadow types and reflections, etc., and what we can use. So here, for example, let's go to lit. Let's understand different types of these lights. So there is a point light, and now it's getting brighter. That's because of the auto exposure is adjusting. And we will know and understand how to work with auto exposure. So point light is mainly, it's called as well omni light because it's generating or adding light in all directions, in 6 directions. And it's not the cheapest thing for games. You can use it, but it's not recommended to use in your game in a lot of locations because you can use instead the spotlight because it's more directional and it has a specific angle to like project the lighting from, and it's not projecting from all angles like this one. So basically, let's go in the base settings for the lighting, the most important settings that we are going to use. So first of all, we have mobility. Mobility is to consider whether this light will be static or baked, or it's going to be fully dynamic, or it's going to be a hybrid between them. So the hybrid model is a stationary one. It's basically using baked GI and dynamic shadows, or baked indirect lighting and dynamic shadows or dynamic direct lighting. So we don't need to use a static or stationary for Lumen or for our projects. However, we have to set it to movable. And we have some bunch of controls here. We have the intensity. It's controlling the amount of lighting rays projected from this light source. So when we increase the intensity, the direct lighting will be increased and the indirect lighting will be increased as well because it responds to the amount of lighting rays. And we have intensity units. As we discussed, we can set it per light actors. You can use nits, lumens, candelas, or exposure value normalized. I think best is lumens for most of lights. To have it lumens, you can keep it candelas. Doesn't really like matter a lot if you are not following with a physically based lighting approach. So you can use lumens, and if you try to use candelas, it's just switching the value. So it's doing the calculations on its own. So let's give it to lumens. We have here light color to add a tint to it. However, this is not like very, very preferred if you want to use very realistic lights or colors. It's better to use than temperature. Temperature controls the if your lighting is warm or cool, and it's good if you are following specific like reference or so. If you are not, or you are working on like a stylized project, or you don't want to have it very, very realistic, or you want to add more like fewer touches to the lighting, you can use the light color so you can control it as long as you go. It's also very good for sci-fi lighting and cyberpunk kind of lighting mode because you cannot get that same tint from temperature. Temperature here, you can only have specific things or a specific range of colors. And temperature mainly, it's uh, it's like added or it's measured in Kelvin. And temperature means the amount of like heat that this object or light needs to eliminate. So zero means it's a black body. And the more you go, the more this object will have heat. So the amount of heat that black body needs to emit is the definition of temperature. Then you have indirect light intensity. As you can see, when you use it or increase it, it adds more indirect lighting rays, which might be good for some cases, but generally a value of 1 is good and it's physically based. Volumetric scattering intensity is related to atmospherics and exponential height fog. We will discuss that when we start on our first scene. Here we have source radius and soft source radius. This is related to shadowing. So if I like made it 100, you will notice that your shadow is very soft now. And the bigger than this number is, the softer the shadow will become. And this is very useful when you want to add very soft shadow that is coming from a big light source. Like for example, you have a window, but this window have a curtain on it, and you want to add a fake light or to fill in a light in your apartment that you are not getting automatically from your directional light or skylight. So you can add like a spotlight or any light source in there, maybe a rectangular light, but it's not very performant for most cases. And then increase or adjust the source radius. The source radius actually, it means the size of the light. And the bigger it is, the softer the shadow will be. And it simulates a real time or real world shadows. And this happens in our like real world. Like for example, if you are on a very sunny, hot day, you will notice that the shadows are very soft. Sorry, it will be very hard, not soft. And the directional light or the sun is probably like above you. It's not like from an angle, like in afternoon or sunrise. The sun is like on the like horizontal on the horizon is pretty much at top, maybe in on here, and that makes it very, very sharp, especially if it's a clear day and it doesn't have a lot of clouds. Basically, clouds works as diffuser. So mainly, or basically what it does is it takes these light rays and diffuse it or like scatter it, and then it produces again the lighting. So that's why in overcast, for example, we see very soft light. Even if the sunlight is very like harsh, we still see very soft light. That's because of the clouds, because the clouds works as a scattering, like a thing or so, and it diffuses the light, which make it very soft. Same goes for the skylight or the like sky itself without the sun. Skylight is considered as a very, very big light source, and that means it's very soft because it's more like an emissive source. So it's not getting from one single point that is very hot or very sharp. So understanding the shadow types and looking at real-world references will help you make much better lights or shadows, which feel more realistic. And mainly, like in my like personal projects, I prefer to use very soft lights. And that makes me able to add lots of light actors. And even if they are coming from different directions, I can notice, or I cannot notice that I have a lot of lights coming from different directions. And that's because of these lights are very, very soft and it's not producing very sharp shadows. And this is why using the very soft shadows or like bigger source radius in most cases is good, but sometimes it's not like good for like high contrast or very distinct black shadows. So it depends actually on the scenario or the time of day, uh, and it comes different from time to another. So you have to pay attention to this. And so same goes for source length. You can increase the length, and as you can see, this could be used for tube lights, for example, to simulate a tube light. So you can control the length of it. If I decrease the radius, you can see this is a more of tube light shape. So this could be representable in reflections more properly than having just like sphere or a shape like this in reflections. Soft source radius, if you increase that, it will affect like the specular highlights. So here, the higher the number, the softer the highlights or the speculars will be. We will notice that in reflections, in proper reflections or mirror reflections. Yeah, so we can then move on. We have here a very important option. Use inverse squared fall off. Basically, it is turned on for all lights. So if you have here, this attenuation radius option controls the size or the range of the light it will go for. So here, even if the light is very far or the range is very, very big, it's not reaching the end of it and it's fading out. That's because of the inverse squared fall off. This is a basic equation, mainly when the distance or the intensity of the light is like I'll show you in will be better to be shown in equation. Inverse squared inverse square law. Yeah, as you can see here, this is the equation. So if you are measuring the light on a surface, if it's one, for example, for 1 meter, so if you have it for 2 meters, the intensity will be reduced by like exponential. It will be reduced exponentially. So it's square 2 of the distance. Maybe I'm not very good in mathematics, but yeah, as you can see here, for example, if this intensity is 1, it will be 1 by 4, it will be 1 by 9, because it's increasing the distance by 3. Like here is 3, here is 2, and this is the equation. So S refers to the strength or the intensity, and R refers to the distance. So you can use this equation. Unreal does it automatically in here, and it has other options. So for example, if we turn this option off, here we go. We can see the light goes even further but it's still fading out. So it's not very bright here as it's at the source. That's because of the light fall off exponent. If this is decreased, this is like the lowest we can go, it will be almost the same. But there is another light source that doesn't have this option, which is the directional light, because it's very, very high in intensity and it's very far away. So it's not following up with this equation. This is only for the rest of the lighting actors. The point lights, spotlights, and rectangular lights, even a skylight is not using this option. And here we have, if you switch it back, it will use unitless. Unitless because this option is not physically based, actually. It's using some general numbers to like try to measure it, but it's not physically based. But we have here another option. It's called inverse exposure blend. If you enabled it, set it to 1, yeah, you can notice the intensity is much lower now. But this option is meant to be or to make the lighting intensity the same, and it's not changeable in different exposure values. So for example, if you have this light interior and exterior, the intensity or the look should remain the same. And we can see that here from, I guess, because it changed. Yeah, here in perspective, there is game settings. As you can see, I'm changing, this is changing the exposure value. And if I have like a duplicate of this here, and it's not using this option, we cannot simply see it because, and even if it's very, very high in intensity, because we have a very high exposure value number. So now if we try to keep it like this, for example, let's have it like 5, 8, 6. Yeah, so for example, this is, I think, around 100,000. Yeah, it's 100,000 lumen. And this is just 1,000 lumen, but it's using this option. So this option is important for maybe some lights, but it's not preferred to use it in all your project because it's breaking the physically based lighting laws. So you don't need to use it in all your project. Yeah, you can keep it back like this. There is specular scale changes if this light is going to be affecting the specular on surfaces or maybe make the surfaces shiny or not. And you can use this option to add like fill lights. This, especially in games, you can add fill lights, but without seeing the reflection of this light on shiny surfaces or water, etc. So you add just fill light. So this is very useful for these scenarios, but generally this option is okay to keep it at 1. Yeah, same goes for diffuse scale. If you turn it to 0, it will not use the base color, will desaturate it. These options are related to shadowing, but most of them are not affecting the virtual shadow maps, except the contact shadow length. You can increase it, but it will be noticeable on very small or tiny objects. So it's not like an option to enable in all your lights, because I believe it adds more, consumes more from the performance. But I really cannot remember the exact time because it depends on each project. Yeah, other options, as you can see here, there is allow mega lights. You can turn it on or off based on each light actor. You have lighting channels. Basically, lighting channels, for example, you can have this one, and let's give it a red tint like this. And we have another one, but this could have like a blue tent, for example, and disable the zero lighting channel, enable only one, and it's not affecting anything because this object, or by default, any object added in Unreal is using lighting channel 0 as default. So you can use 0, 1, 2. You can use the 3 for all objects or lights, but by default it's set to 0, and you can do that for some specific objects. So notice when I enabled it, this object is now affected by this lighting, and this lighting is not affecting anything else, but it produces like the GI in here, even if this floor is not, it's not accepting direct lighting. So GI, or indirect lighting, is affected in lighting channels, but the direct lighting is not affecting all lighting channels, except if it's enabled like this. So lighting channels could be useful in some cases. Let's reset it to default and get down. These options we will cover later for specific projects or specific scenes to have much better quality. Here we can use ray traced shadows if you want. It might take some time at first to get enabled, but you will notice it's producing much softer and more precise shadows like this. Shadow penumbra here, this line is not accurate. This shadow penumbra is not good. And this is a downside or limitation from virtual shadow map. If you enabled it, you will have much better shadows. So you can see the difference. And if this is using megalights, let's ensure that megalights is turned on. And this will affect, as you can see now, it has better shadows, actually. This is before and after. It has better shadows. And you can here switch the megalight shadow method. You can switch from default, ray tracing. Ray tracing is exactly the same, or virtual shadow map. Virtual shadow map usually produce better look in general, but not for this case. Ray tracing is very, very good. It's softer, and surprisingly, ray tracing, I found that ray tracing is having better, like as you can see, currently it's fixed megalights cost. It's preferred, as you can see here, it's preferred method, and ray tracing shadowing method for megalights only is producing a much better cost, and it's very, very performant related or compared to virtual shadow maps. So you can use it if you want. And here you can use light functions. Light functions is basically to add like water, caustics, or like fake cloud shadows, etc. You can use whatever you want here or in the light function, and the IES texture you can use them, but the IES texture, as you can see, it's to generate specific shape. You can create your own if you want, but IES is not very performant to be used. It's not recommended to be used a lot. You can use them for some interiors or some specific lights, but otherwise light function could be used, and it's not very complex as the light profiles. So same options, or most of objects goes for the other lights as well. There is a question, which channels you can exclude some objects from specific lights? Yep. You can exclude any objects you want. Once, how it works basically, the light and the objects should be on the same lighting channel to have them illuminated or affected. So for example, if you have a light that is using 0 and 1 channel, or let's keep it like, for example, 1, light channel 1, not 0, no, you will find no object is affected except some objects that are like for light channel 1 only. You can use multiple light channels, so some objects could be affected by light channel 0, 1, 2. And other objects could be affected by only lighting channel 1. So you can exclude objects as you wish. Yeah, does that mean Megalight works better with ray tracing shadow? Yeah, this might seem a bit confusing, but this shadowing or shadow method for megalights is not the same as this one. Cast ray trace shadow is not good, or it's not working well with nanite meshes, except if you did some changes in nanite meshes, but this one is working better. It's developed to work better with nanite meshes. So yeah, basically ray tracing, which is default. Actually, if you kept it as default, it will use ray tracing, is better with megalights. And it's not preferred to use it from this option, cast ray trace shadows, because this one is not like, it's basically using the old ray tracing method that is available in UE4 and previous versions that doesn't have megalights. So it's not compatible with nanite meshes, and it still produces a lot of shadowing issues, like it's very noisy in some places and in a lot of other cases. So yeah, that's basically about the light actors. This is point light. And yeah, same goes for spotlight. But yeah, let's remove this one. Just need to add color. It doesn't really matter. Spotlight has almost the same options except for this cone settings. And there is an issue. I'm not sure if Epic Games has managed to fix it, but when you increase the cone angle and it exceeds 65, it starts to have some jagginess on edges. Not sure if it's because of megalights is allowed. Yeah, if you don't have megalights allowed, you'll notice this jagged edges when you exceed 65. So the bigger the number, the more you will notice it, and you have to set it to very, very low number. But if you are using megalights, this issue will be gone because it's using ray trace shadows, which basically makes it softer. So yeah, this is regarding the outer cone angle. The bigger it will be, the more area it will cover. And the inner cone angle is to control the fall off. Pay attention to the edges right here. When I try to increase the inner cone angle, the fall off is not as before. And if they are both equal to the same number, there will not be a fall off, as this will be very, very sharp. It could be useful for some cases, but generally we don't do that. Maybe very high like this, but it's not the same number. Same goes for source radius, like here as we go, and rest of the options are the same as point light. And there's rectangular light, or it's called as well area light in other software. This is basically heavier and takes more to calculate because it's depending on ray trace shadows. But here you can control the width and height on your own. And as you can see, it produces very, very soft shadows very quickly. Yeah, and here, even without megalights, it still has very soft shadows, but with megalights, it's much better. But megalights starts to like have some issues with shadowing when you have lots of lights overlapping with each other. Right now, we are only using one, so that's why it's not causing a lot of issues. And actually, it looks very, very good. And there is an other option here called source texture. You can, for example, use a texture from real life, like the Octa lights that are in studio lights, you can use some textures from it, so you can shape the reflections or the light source look as you go, but usually this is not used because you have to get very, very specific textures, and usually we don't use it in general. Usually we don't use rectangular lights in general because it's very it's not performant at all, and it takes a lot from the GPU time. However, when we are going to do a lot more of like cinematic lighting and very, very high quality lighting later on, we will start to use rectangular lights and lots of lights without paying attention to performance. So yeah, that's mainly about the light types. We still have skylight, directional light. I'll go in them once we open the project, once we open the level and start using them directly. And we have visual effects, post-process volume, sky atmosphere, volumetric cloud, exponential height fog, local volumes. This is added recently, I think starting from 5.4, 5.5. And other sphere reflection capture. This is for all reflection method to have baked reflections. Same for box reflection captures and planar reflections. We don't need to use them because we have Lumen reflections. So yeah, that's basically it. You might ask, where is the HDRI backdrop? It's on its own plugin here. There's HDRI backdrop. Actually, I don't prefer to use it in general because I like to create my own sky and like control it separately. So HDRI backdrop is good for like quickly iterations to do quick iterations, or for some cases it's basically the same as using separate sky sphere and material. But when you are using separate material and separate skybox, it's much better to control. So yeah, that's basically about the light actors in general. We still have a lot to discuss about directional light, the skylight, how everything from that works. And post-process volume is on its own, it has a lot of options to discuss. Sky atmosphere, volumetric cloud, exponential height, all of these options. But for now, we want to start like understand the principles of physically based lighting, how we can approach this method to create our first lighting setup in this project, and how is the differences between this like approach and the basic approach, and how to start using tone mapping, controlling our exposure, our shadows, how to properly use the color grading tools and create our first scene or our first lighting. And actually, I don't want to create like some generic lighting results. So I want to create some moody, some more of like a very interesting lighting to look at. So we might take some time in it. We have spent around an hour and a half now, but we might take around 30 or 40 minutes to finish this. So yeah, once while this project is loading, can have any questions about that? There is why I use the reflection capture. It's for baked reflections for older or previous lighting methods. We don't use it right now with Lumen because you can either use dynamic or like Lumen reflections or other reflection types, except if you are going to switch between them somehow with a post-process volume. If anyone has any question, please drop it in the chat or ask it directly. And how you feel about it for now, before I start before starting our first lighting.
Yeah, we can see a lot of lighting settings like we can optimize and work in a better manner. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Just awesome information, Karim. Just awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you, Mohammed. Uh, I didn't hear you well.
Just awesome information about lighting. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would like to know more about those tweaking and getting the balance of, all those lights to use. And I also use most of spotlights only to avoid cost of FPS and, try to get the feel, but it's very restricted, like cones are there and I use cove lighting for rectangular only, but also basically we get more of leakage and it's more of, bouncy.
Mhm.
Yeah, so hope to see more of.
Yeah, for sure. We will start that now. Yeah, absolutely. This sessions or this week's assignment will be I'm going now to relight this environment, and the assignment is to create another version of this lighting on your own. And it will be very, very like good to create the same lighting as I will do, and another one on the same environment or any other environment, and it's really up to you. And you are totally welcome to have any other like relighting projects. The more you do, the more you will add to your portfolio. I think, Anna, you had a question, probably. I don't know.
So did you call my name?
Yeah,
No.
I saw you were
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I've been working on one little project for like France and everything, and basically it's like like some 3D animated poster for Paris. So obviously we have like some disco ball implemented, and yeah, kind of I was struggling with any sort of reflections coming from the disco ball. So I was wondering if it's something but if something like that is possible to do with Lumen, because I usually work with Path Tracer. From what I
Mhm.
know, like like these kind of like, physically based reflections are easier to do there, but like it would be probably madness to approach it like that.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, there is going to be a workaround. Um, if you don't mind, we can discuss it in like Discord,
Oh yeah,
probably
yeah,
after
sure.
this. Yeah, so you can share your screen, and if you could, and start like solving this issue or making it better.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, there is another question. Yeah, megalights is not good for hair strands at the moment because they are still working on it. I don't think it's fully ready for production yet. So that's why it still has some limitations. So yeah, it's not good for hair unless you are using different shadowing method like virtual shadow maps with megalights. This will be better for hair strands, but it will cost more from performance. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. About MetaHuman. eyeball looks so dark in Lumen settings. When you turn on ray tracing settings, or you turn off ray tracing settings on its own mesh panel, then it looks okay. But when I turn off, the eyeball looks fake. Yeah, in Lumen, you have this like option visible in ray tracing for the meshes. When you turn this, I'm not sure if you are talking about this option or not, but when you turn this off, this basically excludes this object from Lumen scene, and it's not visible in Lumen scene anymore. But my recommendation would be to like adjust the shaders or the materials of the eyeball to fit with Lumen. Yeah, sometimes when we have some meshes or some materials are not working properly, or in their most like best cases they are not working properly with Lumen, so we have to adjust materials to like break some parameters or fake it to look better. Because yeah, some of these options might be limitations or other options from the light settings, etc. So it could be from materials, from the lighting, from the project settings, etc. In terms of the project settings, do you think there is one best setting set for all the projects if we don't care about performance that much? Yeah, it would be for sure hardware ray tracing and the ray lighting mode will be head lighting. Head lighting and not head lighting for reflections. Head lighting is much, much better, but it's very, very heavy for lots of scenes. So yeah, basically head lighting for reflections is using more bounces and like more accurate rays. And the first bounce is using ray tracing, and the other bounces are using surface cache or get back to surface cache. In head lighting, it uses more accurate light rays, not for reflections only, it's using it for reflections and global illuminations. But the second bounces is using surface cache. So yeah, you will get much better results, but I'm not sure if there's a console command on console variable to use more bounces with ray tracing before switching back automatically to surface cache, because Unreal does that automatically to still save some more performance. Because Unreal is not built like to have ultra cinematic quality currently, except if you are doing or using some specific console variables to set much higher limitations so the engine gets more or better results. And at the same time, it's built to work with games, but it's not very performant for games because currently it's built for like hybrid models to use or to be used for games, but very high quality games. So in order to get the best performance, you have to like work a lot with console variables and configure which one adds more to the quality. And not you don't need to use bus tracing as your first option. You can use Lumen, but the limitations for Lumen could be extended or made higher. So you have better visuals and better quality. So yeah, my recommendation is to use hardware ray tracing with head lighting and enable the high quality translucency, reflections, and refractions. And there are some other post-process settings we will cover or talk about in brief in this session because we have to spend more time for them to control the quality for Lumen. And there's like some noise that is coming or generated from Lumen. I'll show you how to eliminate it without touching the post-process settings. So yeah, this will come later with interiors. Yeah, it will be more visible in interiors, not exterior environments. Yeah, let's get to this. All this performance care could be done separately in post-process volume. Most of them, yes, but some other settings could not be in post-process volume. So for example, switching between software and hardware ray tracing is not a post-process thing. It's in project settings. But it could be configured with like shipping the project. It could be configured with the project files, but not in runtime in the post-process. Which settings cannot be twisted in post-processing volume? Yeah, switching between hardware and software ray tracing could not be like changed. However, you can change the global illumination and reflection method. So for example, if you are using hardware ray tracing, you can fall back to maybe baked lighting if you are switching that in post-process volume, but you cannot switch it to software ray tracing, for example. Also, megalights could be controlled in post-process volume per region. And yeah, most of other objects sorry, features, mainly GI and reflections could be controlled in post-process volume. What about shadows? I'm working currently on one project when I experienced some weird splotchiness in my foliage shadows. But now I'm thinking I may set shadows to ray traced shadows. Yeah, you may try megalights if you are using 5.5 or higher with ray tracing. This might fix your issue, but in general, there are some limitations with vegetations by Lumen. Sometimes it's not calculating very well, and sometimes shadowing is not very good, especially with like thin objects or grass or so. You might notice that shadows are not very good in this situation. I face most problem in creating midday lighting and morning lighting like Rockstar Games. Many times I try to make realistic midday noon light, but I failed. Sometimes I made that so bright. Sometimes it looks little bright. So in future class, you discuss please about lighting. We will discuss this right now. We'll actually create like a midday or afternoon lighting. And with the approach we will discuss, you will know how each or how every lighting scenario will look like. So you will not depend on eyeballing and guessing if this is good or not. This was my known work, but there is good lighting. It's missing. I get many feedback about moon lighting. Thank you. Yeah, I will check it for sure. Just waiting for this project to load. It's taking a lot of time because we changed the project settings. Yeah, it's taking 100% from CPU. Okay, once it's not freezed or it's as it takes a lot, so it's not freezed, it's working. So yeah, once it's while it's loading, yeah, we can have more questions. Do you have list of favorite CVARs that you like to tweak? Actually, no, because um, like some console variables mainly depends on the projects, and I will share some console variables as we go. And there was a cheat sheet I had before. It may be useful. I'll share it in Discord so you can have all console variables for Unreal. I think all of them because it's very, very long. I guess it has around like 4,000 or so. I cannot really remember the exact number, but it has a lot of console variables, which is not related only to lighting or rendering. It's in general for Unreal Engine. So you can search, enter anything related to Lumen or lighting. And basically, when I try to work with console variables, yeah, here we goes. And when I try to, like, I want to debug anything related to Lumen, I type Lumen in the CMD bar, and I get a bunch of console variables. And when I hover on any one of them, it says a description about it, what it's actually doing, and the current value of it. Some console variables are not set or are not, doesn't have description and default value, so you have to try with them or search for them. But mainly, this is my best approach. Like, for example, I can search for Lumen. We have now tons of Lumen console variables. We can search for Lumen reflection. We can see all Lumen reflections. So basically, this is very good. And of course, this takes lots of time because you cannot figure out all options at one time. But once you spend some quite good time on them, you will later know which one you want based on your project and your preferences because it depends on each one and each project. So you can use them or gather them later in like one file or so. And once they are like, if you typed anything in here, it will be saved in your history, so you can get back later to it. But yeah, once we start like rendering or have we want to have very high quality results, there are some console variables, of course, to be used to have maximum quality and get very high screenshots, but they are not a big list. It's not a big list of console variables. They are pretty simple ones, and other ones will be for debugging or for controlling quality overall. So these might change based on each project. Yeah, that's why I don't have like a list of them. If you'd like to add new CVARs without documenting them, yeah, they don't even mention them in their documentation or so. So you might notice, like for example, here you might notice a new constant variable, and if you hover on any one, you can see the description and the current value. So you might be surprised when you see new console variables and you never heard of them. Yeah, okay. So let's keep it like preparing, preparing textures, shaders, etc. Once it's done, we can start our lighting. So while it's doing that, we can search for something called orders of magnitude in luminance. There's a difference between luminance, illuminance, and each one has a different value. So illuminance is measured by lux, which is the sunlight, and lux is the amount of lighting that is like added on surface or the surface is getting. So it's not the amount of lighting that this light source is projecting. So it is different from the luminance. The luminance is the amount of lighting that this light source is projecting. So for example, if we wanted to use luminance for sunlight, this would be crazy because you have to add very, very, very high value to like receive the amount you want from the like luminance. So for example, I can show it, or actually there's better images, right? Versus luminance. Yeah. Um, yeah, here, for example, let's make it bigger. Basically, not sure. Yeah, luminance is the amount of light that is coming from the light source. Illuminance is the amount of light that is illuminating the surface. So each one has a different value or measurement. So illuminance is measured in lux, and lux is lumen per square meter. And what is lumen? Lumen is the candelas per square meter. And what is candela? Candela is actually different because candela is the amount of light that is added or like emitted from specific source, but like for example, it's different from each light actor. I think it's yeah, lux versus lumens versus candela. Yeah, as you can see here, I think there is better explanations. Yeah, let's see any one of them could be better. So these light values or light units are different because each one has a specific light source and a measurement or a way to measure it. So yeah, candela. There was a very, very good image that describes that. I think this could be good. Yeah, so candela is the amount of the light itself. The lumen is the amount of light that is specified or clipped within an angle or a specific angle. The lux is the amount of the surface luminosity. So it's very, very different. And this kind of difference is important to understand. So yeah, let's recap it again. Lumen is the amount of light but within a cone. So for example, like the spotlight or the rectangular light. Candela is the amount of light from the light source itself. Like for example, a light bulb could be like, for example, measured in candela because it's generating in all directions. Lux is the amount of the light on the surface itself, not from the light source. So of course, the light from the surface absolutely will be lower than the light source itself, because if it's going in a lot of directions, there is a paint. Like for example, if I have this surface, the lux value on it is 1 lux. And to have like a light source, there is a light source like this. It's 10 lux. It does make sense to like have only 1 lux for like on a surface, but in order to do that with like lumen, not lux, if this needs to be lumen, sorry about that, so bad at drawing. This needs to be lumen. It has to be very, very high because light is going everywhere. It's not going in a same or a specific direction. It's going everywhere. So the light rays, this for example, if it's going here, it will not be 10 as this one. If it needs to be 10, so this one needs to be like, for example, 10,000 or so. I'm not sure about the number exactly. It needs to be very, very higher. Yeah, let's they removed the CVAR settings tab in the render movie settings in UE 5.6 is console. I think it's still there because I've maybe it's different, but the console variables is still in the movie render queue settings. We will discuss it for sure when we want to use very high cinematic renders. Yeah, feel free to jump off. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, here we go. It's ready. So if we want to where yeah, there is an issue with the landscape, probably because one of the plugins. Yeah, we can see how we can solve it. I just want to pick a good location. There was a car actually in here. Yeah, spec like best location, for example. I'm not sure what is going on actually. Will it? Yeah, probably it's world partition. So focus world. And maybe world partition is disabled. Enable streaming. Yeah. Here in project settings, because I cannot see some meshes from the landscape, and even I cannot select anything in here, and it says streaming disabled. That's because of world partition is disabled. So I have to enable streaming. And in world settings, I'm sure there is an option for world partition. Yeah, enable streaming. It should work better. Yeah. And here now I can select all of that and load region from selected or from selection. Might take some time at first, but if it's on an SSD or an NVMe, it will load faster. Yeah, well, still have some missing options in here. Yeah, landscape actors are out of date. Rebuilt here in this warning. So it's building nanite landscape mesh. Yeah, probably this is because of nanite landscape is enabled and this needs rebuild. And previously 5.2 doesn't have nanite landscapes. That's why it's not visible. It's good to see this kind of issues in here while we are live, so we can fix it ongoing. Yeah, let's let it build it, and if there is any other questions, yeah, feel free to drop it in the chat. Yeah, I guess it's working now. Let's save. Yeah, let's figure out why we don't have the landscape. Let's disable that. No, let's see. Any starting point? Yeah, landscape is missing from. Yeah, it's missing for some reason. So there's landscape. Run partition. Yeah, let's just disable that. Disable that as well. Try to remove from partition. See how it goes. Yeah, I removed it. Yeah, world partition. And for landscape, using nanite, build data. Yeah, so probably it's missing for some reason. And if I try to like close it and open this one, might be because of plugins. So let's check if the plugins have a specific thing. I don't think plugins were responsible for that. Yeah, let's see how it goes. If this version works with 5.2, we can continue working on it. It's totally fine. And then I will try to switch it and see if there's any issues in it. I'll fix them and tag all the fixes in Discord so you are aware of it. But we can use these previous versions. It doesn't really matter. We will just be missing some options from megalights and for head lighting, for example, for reflections, etc. And maybe we can try using 5.5 or so. So yeah, since this project is very, very big, I don't want to have duplicates of it right now. So yeah, I'll fix it for sure and post all the details about the fix. There is another way of converting this project. Like, for example, if you, let's wait for this one to open, and we can convert in a more like in a safer way or a safer approach. So we can have more reliable like plugins or content. Maybe plugins might not work as well for it, but we can see how it will work right when it opens. Okay, here it is. Let's open. Yeah, the other way to like switching the version, you can go to here and File, New Project, and or actually it's not in New Project, Open Project. It's not a new project, and search for any project you want. And when you want to open it, it will ask if you want to switch the version of it. So you can switch in place or like create a duplicate of it with a newer version so you can have a backup. Yeah, as we can see here, it's not working properly. So yeah, we can get back to the other one and work with what we have right now until we fix this issue. Let's load. Yeah, it's content levels, electric field, yeah. Yeah, it's BCG error. As you can see, this error is related to BCG. Yeah. References, specially loaded actor. And if you wanted to fix it, of course, we will take lots of time to fix. So we can go to like any location, this, for example, or yeah, let's go here, for example. Or I can quickly Add to project. So yeah, I do have another version of it as backup. Games launcher. But it will be much better to yeah, I'm opening it now. It's a backup version. It will be much better to have the landscape and all versions to have proper GI and yeah, more precise lighting. So yeah, if you try to open in 5.6, you might get the same issue because it's related to BCG. So try first to open in 5.3. If it's good, you can upload or get 5.5, for example. So you start one by one and you don't have this BCG issue, and always have a backup for it. So yeah, here it is. Okay. So first of all, I prefer to remove all the lighting. Yeah, there are light or color calibrators we didn't talk about today. We will talk about probably in next session to know how to use sphere captures and other captures. Sorry, not sphere capture, it's a reflection, sphere reflection or chrome walls and other type of materials to debug our lighting. Okay, so I can remove all of that. Yeah, apply to all. Apply. And ensure we don't have other lighting. And yeah, it's now it's very Lumen is not calculating very well currently. We also need to ensure that in world settings, there is in light mass, there is advanced. Yeah, this option has to be turned on and it's already turned on here, so we don't need to check it. We can get here, build lighting only to ensure that we don't have any baked lighting. Yeah, as we can see, it terminated or eliminated all the lighting data from the scene. Yeah, so let's get here for this one. I just pressed on 1 for bookmark 1. And here, let's create a new folder called lighting. I love to add like an exclamation mark. So it's always on top like this. And you can right click on it, make current folder, and any object you will add, it will be added directly to this folder. So you don't need to hustle or search for a lot of lights in here, drag and drop them, and doing all of this stuff. You can just make it current folder, and when you are done, clear it. So first of all, let's get back to orders of magnitude. If we want to create like a midday or afternoon lighting, probably golden hour or before golden hour, just to have a very good quality and overall moody lighting, we have to follow some main principles or steps at first. First of all, we need the intensity of our sky. So for example, we can get back to anything or the most like the closest number of like sunrise or sunset. The more you go, the more the value will increase. And it's not for our like way or lighting scenarios that we are looking for. So for example, we can refer to typical photographic scene as sunrise or sunset could be around 25 candela per meter square. Candela per meter square is equals the nets. So nets value, which will be seen right now, is the same as candela per meter square, and we don't need to have or do any conversions in here. So to get our sky, we can use sky from Body Heaven or any skies that you have. You can use matte painting skies if you want. These are very, very cool and good. So here in the skies, let's go for pure skies and let's search for a lighting scenario. Probably this one could be good, sunrise, or maybe one with the sun a bit higher. Maybe No, good. A sunrise one could be good. We can determine the position of the sun from the shadow length and the shadow softness. Whether this sky is overcast like this one, shadows is very soft, or like this one. This one is for sure sunrise or sunset. As you can see, the shadows are very long. And the one that yeah, this one is late afternoon. This could be perfect. Yeah, this is late afternoon, but the sky doesn't have a lot of details in there. That's why matte painting sky pixels are good. So let's use this one. Let's give it 8K. It's okay. And the differences here in versions. EXR is good to use as a regular sky, as a regular texture. And HDR is for texture cube, which is a very different texture type. And it's usually used for skylight and if you are using a texture cube. So it's better to use EXR. And let's download it very quickly. And once it's downloaded, we can create our skybox material. So we can go here in content. If there is a materials folder, no, there is no material. We can create new folder, call it materials, and create a new sky, m_sky box. If we opened it, for sure this is using substrate, which is not good. Sorry, it crashed. Yeah, typical UE5. So yeah, we will recreate our material again. Let's open the scene. I think that texture is downloaded now. Yeah, it's ready. And let's see in our scene, once it's loaded. Yeah, here it goes. Trails, of course, because I didn't save the lighting, it's back now. So I have to remove. Let's click edit or select all sentence, remove, and yeah, apply all, apply, and it's removed. Let's create a new folder called lighting with the exclamation mark at first and make it current folder. Build lighting only to eliminate all data from the lighting in here, as you can see now. Let's save and create our material. m_skybox. Any thoughts on using also dynamic sky? Actually, I don't prefer it because it could be good for quick iterations and setting up the mode that you want, try different ones. But really, as a lighting artist, it's not good to use ultra dynamic sky. It could be good for some cases, but in general, ultra dynamic sky, like it offers generic look that everyone can get from the same tool. So I prefer to use my own mode or the tools that are in engine. We are not using any external tools actually. We are using all tools from the engine. So I prefer more using the in-editor tools rather than ultra dynamic sky. So yeah, this is disabled. Let's see. Yeah, let's look it. And I don't prefer substrate actually. Next projects will not use substrate, but here, as we can go, we can create a texture sample, and let's import our texture. It shouldn't be our texture if we import it. I'm dragging and dropping it. It's not better to have it here in the same materials folder. It should be on its own folder. Yeah, let's try that. But the thing is, with substrate, it's project settings thing. So it's enabled or disabled by project settings. I guess if I try to use substrate onlet. Yeah, I think I can change this one. So I can use, like, for example, I need the onlet one. So I will use substrate onlet. We'll remove this one and plug in this one instead. Why I'm using onlet? This is like changing the material domain. The shading model from let to onlet. Because for the sky, you are working with it as an emissive source. So you don't need actually to have a lot of parameters in here enabled. And there is other options as well. There is decal response, set it to none. There is fully rough. You can enable fully rough. And is a sky option is better to enable. And that will work with real-time capture from the skylight. I'll show that to you later when we start with the skylight. So now I can go here. Let's disable virtual texture, streaming, disable it. And we need to change, compression settings is set to HDR. If it's set to default, set it to HDR, compression, as here. And in MIB gen settings, in general, the textures tends to downscale on distance like LODs. So as this one is a sky, we don't need to do that. So from MIB gen settings, we use no map maps, and texture group, we can set it to skybox. And then we can save. Let's assign tickets. Yeah, let's select this one and assign, or select it from here, then assign here. It will change to linear color, and yeah, it should be working much better now. So here we can, from the RGB, get multiply and create scalar parameter. Call it brightness, set it to 1. And you can plug it directly to emissive color. And as you can see now, it's reading the the material properly. This is very basic for now. So when we want to add our skybox, you can go to all engine. If this is not showing up, you can go to settings here and show engine content to show this one. You can go to content and engine and search for inverse. There is a sphere inverse normals. Drag and drop it. It will be added automatically to this one, this folder. Rename it. Press on F2 to rename. You can call it SM underscore skydome or skybox. It doesn't really matter based on your preference. Reset the location. If this look is like this, it's unlocked. Better look it and set the scale to 15,000 or 150,000 to make it bigger, but usually 15,000 is good. So the skylight threshold has a lot or good and efficient distance to capture from the skybox itself, and it's not capturing from the environment entirely. That's if you are not using real-time captures with the skylight. And here in materials, let's get back to content, materials, skybox. Right-click on it and create material instance. Name it mi underscore late afternoon. Press on it and press here on this arrow button. And yeah, if I switch to lit mode, I can see now something here in the sky. But actually, this is not physically based yet. And as we saw here, in orders of magnitude, this has to be around 25. So how we can measure that? There's a very, very important visualizer here in show, visualize, HDRI adaptation. This is very important and it will show you how exposure is working, like here in darker areas and bright areas, etc. And for example, if I'm looking here at the sky, you can see net. I'm not sure if the number is very clear to see, but it's around 0.4, which is very, very low currently. So we can go to our sky material like this. Sorry, let's do it like this, and then make the brightness a bit higher. Let's set it to like 10, 100, sorry. So 100, make it around, this is very bright in here, but in general, this is like an average. An average is around 30. So 100 of brightness is good actually to have. We can add here in our master material, we can add controls for color, for contrast, for saturation, etc. But for now, I just wanted to keep it a bit simple to go forward. So for now, this sky is quite good in brightness. And if we try to look down to any dark areas, of course, we not see anything, but that's because of the skylight. And here comes the skylight work. If we added skylight, set the location to 0, now we start having some ambient lighting. Of course, it's very, very bright and exposure is not working properly. And in order to adjust it, of course, yeah, we need first to switch skylight mode to movable and enable real-time capture. Yeah, it will update right now. It's better to keep intensity at 1, color at basic or default, so the sky really captures from the skybox, not from a specific cube or specific parameters. So if you wanted to make the skylight looks brighter, you can increase the skybox light intensity. But we can break this approach in some scenarios, as we can see in upcoming sessions. Now we can add a post-process volume. Let's go to visual effects, add a post-process volume to control exposure. First of all, let's scroll down to infinite extent, unbound, enable it, and in exposure, it's better to keep exposure compensation at 0. So these pillars are now matched to each other. So when we calibrate our exposure, it will be much easier to do that. Can keep it on auto exposure. For now, I'll show you when we want to switch it. And we can control the minimum and maximum exposure value. Right now, the minimum is set to -10, which is on the left side of this bar or this visualizer. And the maximum is set to 20, which is here on the right side. So if we increased the minimum, as you can see, the minimum is it's getting clamped, and once it reaches these pillars, it will make it darker. So the higher the AV number is, the darker the scene will look. But we don't know actually like which number should it be. Like the auto exposure is trying to adjust to this blue pillar. They should be matched together. But we don't know which value should it be. So we have to get back to another thing called Sunny 16 rule. And Sunny 16 rule, basically, they are like predefined values for adjusting the exposure for cameras in specific time of days. So for example, we have a lot of images here, but usually the values are the same. So get this one, for example. We have here sunset. And for sunset, we can use these values in manual exposure, or we can refer to another table like this one, for example. It has also sunset, or yeah, as you can see here. But this is more detailed, as you can use different aperture, you can use different shutter speed values, but all at 100 ISO. So to replicate that, we are on sunset. We are on 100 ISO. And let's see that in engine. There is camera settings. And if you try to enable them, only this one will work, but it has no difference. Because you need to change the metering mode to manual. And these options will work. So we have to adjust these options. We only need the first three options. So aperture or f-stop could be any value from this, but mainly we can have like 1/100 shutter speed on 160. There is no 160 in here, so we can use 1/100. So shutter speed 1/100, and ISO is 100, aperture is 4. So yeah, we are matching the same values now. It's f4, the aperture, and shutter speed is 1/100, and ISO is 100. Now the image is looking much, much darker. And in order to switch to auto exposure, it will start to become brighter. But if we are here in manual, you can notice that this white pillar is set to 10, or its value is 10.64. And this is how what we can adjust actually to make the auto exposure on the same value. So you can set the minimum and maximum to 10.64, 10.64. And if we try to switch between manual and auto exposure, it's exactly the same. There is no difference. And that means we matched both of them together properly. So let's reset these values and use auto exposure on these values, but it's still very dark, which we will fix right now. Currently, if we usually let's see, for example, want to do that, there's something called contrast ratio. And contrast ratio means the amount of changing in exposure value stops between light and shadow. So if I tried to create a new material called gray ball, let's create it very, very quickly. In diffuse albedo, press 1 and left click. This is for base color. So base color for gray is 18% from albedo, not 50, because the color or the exposure is not linear, it's logarithmic, and it's getting the not average. It's not taking 0 plus 100 over 2. It's getting 0 plus 100 over 2, and it's getting the square root of them. So it's geometric mean, not average. So this is correct gray. And you can keep roughness and other options as they are currently. I want to quickly do it. And let's close. Yeah, let's add a cube like this. Let's get a bit higher and duplicate this cube. Yeah, duplicate this cube. Just scale this one a little bit, and we'll snap this to the other one. Yeah, like this. So let's apply the material on this, material on this. So for now, as we can see, there is a bright side, there is a shadowed side, even with a single sky box. And if we opened or used a visualizer, HDR visualization, we can see that the EV100 value is around 5.6 in here, and it's around 4.1 or 4.2 in here. So it's around 1.4 stop difference in bright and shadow side, which is very good for overcast and sunrise usually. So we are now like on the good side. We are using the proper value for our sky. And let's save all of that, get back to post-process. And these exposure values stop that we measured, it's not related to the actual like exposure value in the post-process. So it's different because it's like measuring the intensity overall, not the exposure value. So if these are different, even they are different, they will generate the same results usually. So for now, we can get back here, and our exposure or our dark areas, it's very, very dark. And with the skylight, we don't need to do that to increase the skylight immediately. That's not the best approach to do it. We need then to let's add our directional light. And we need to have a chrome ball. Let's duplicate this one and let's call it chrome ball. Very quickly, let's make it 1, duplicate it twice, make it 0 on roughness, and I'm not sure if 0 is I just want to make it metallic. Probably here. Yeah, about F90. Yeah, probably if this one F0. So it's metallic. If you are using basic Unreal nodes, it will be albedo or base color. Metallic should be 1 and roughness should be 0. So to get a perfect chrome pole. Let's close it and let's close this one as well. Let's create or add a sphere and apply the material, a chrome pole material on it. So for now, there's our sun in here. If we have here the directional light, set it to like 100 or make it bigger, a bit bigger, so we can see it. So if I try to use Control L and rotate it, I can sync it with the, let's make it actually a bit bigger. Yeah, I can see it now. It's almost on the same spot, but should it be very like high in intensity like this. So we now added our directional light. There is another thing that we had to do with this skydome mesh. We have to go here, scroll down to collision, and collision presets set it to no collision, and in lighting, turn off cast shadow. So it's working properly and not causing any issues. So yeah, for now, let's get back to Sunny, not Sunny 16 rule, it's orders of magnitude. Let's get to illuminance. There is fully overcast, sunrise, or sunset, so sunlight should be around 40. So let's set it to 40, and probably we might need to like rotate it a little bit, or let's see how we will do it. But first of all, we need to get rid of these very black shadows. We can do that by reducing minimum exposure value like this, or we can start then going with other options. Like for example, we can here control shadow contrast scale and highlight contrast scale. For example, shadow contrast scale, it's usually Unreal default value is set to 0.8, and you can go down up to 0.6. It's not preferred to go down lower than these values. So there is a difference, as you can see. It's very basic option, and this with just one option, we made our shadows a bit brighter. This is in the local exposure is sorted from tone mapping. And there are other options. There is film. This is for the tone mapping. If I try to, like I have these three. Shoulder is controlling the top of this curve, as you can see here in the HDR high adaptation curve. If I try to increase it, it will increase the maximum value of it. So we will have more saturated highlights and the clipped, as you can see now, it's more saturated. The toe is controlling the down area of the curve. So it's controlling the darker area, the shadows, as you can see here. The slope is controlling overall the curve steepness. So make it flatter or make it more like S shape. So it's having more contrast. So here we want to adjust the toe. Adjusting the toe will decrease the shadows, but will make the image look more desaturated, which we can like fix later. So we can go down to 0.3, but it's not recommended to go further down because the curve will start to work or adjust in a different way because this is not linear as mentioned before. So as you can see, with just two options like these two options, we completely changed our shadow looking. Of course, it's still a bit bright and desaturated, so we will fix that for sure. But for now, we need to change or fix our directional. We can actually make it like 400. Let's try 4000. Let's see how it looks. And we can rotate our sky. So for example, yeah, currently I'm selecting the directional light in the sky. Press Control and your left mouse button and right mouse button together, and you can rotate them. So yeah, let's try to have it like this, probably, or yeah, probably this is good. Of course, most of our environment will be in shadows like this, so we will see how it will be looking. Yeah, and currently for the directional light, see if it's 40. Yeah, it's a bit dark, so we can still adjust it. Back to orders of magnitude. We can use this one, sunrise or sunset on a clear day. So it's 400, and this sky is clear, so I can set it to 400. This is how will it look in real life, but it's still missing the color of it. We will get back to color grading for sure. Yeah, so we have skylight. It's very basic. We didn't add any options in here, just enabled real-time capture to quickly capture the changes in the sky. Directional light, we set the intensity of it, can make it softer if we need it. And as we can see, the option here is called source angle, not source radius. As you can see here, it's pretty different. So you can set it to probably 3 or 4. It's based on your taste or preference. And temperature usually for sunset is around thousands. So this is usually it for sunset. And we can change the sky color pretty quickly in here. Let's add a multiply node and a color. This is a 4-vector parameter. This is a tint like this. And let's control the color to make it a bit warm looking. Like for example, like this, but this is very, very warm. Or can have it to look more. Actually, let's keep it this. Yeah, just slightly warmer. And directional light is set to that. We still don't have any volumetrics in there. So we can start adding visual effects. I'm not using sky atmosphere in most cases because, as you can see, like here, this is not visible in here, but it affects the probably it is not. Yeah, it affects the color of the directional light and overall scattering of the light, which I don't love so much. So I don't use it a lot. I depend on the skylight, skybox itself, and everything basically except the sky atmosphere, and not even volumetric clouds. I'm not using them. Let's add the exponential height fog and reset the scale, the position of it. Fog and scattering color. For physically based lighting, you have to use not very high values, but a bit higher values. So like, for example, this, I want to create a bit of moody effect and very dramatic effect. So I'm going to use 200 value like this. And let's give it a bluish tint like the sky. Probably like this, bit bluish like this. And we want actually to break the principles a little bit. I want to make my directional light harsher. I want to make the image overall feel it's more of a painterly style. So I want to make it harsher, less warm like this. Maybe even harsher. And let's try not 20,000, let's try 40,000. It's very harsh right now. And of course, this is not physically accurate for like a lot of things. But let's, for example, try 2200 of temperature. Let's set it to around 40,000 is good. An exponential height fog. I will enable volumetric fog. Let's keep the scattering as it is. And make the scattering albedo color because it's coming from the sun. I want to, let's keep it as it is actually. And tune the sky box a little bit. Let's make it brighter. Let's remove this tone and make it not just very bright. Probably like this kind of light. And if I try to rotate the directional light with the sunlight, sorry, the sky with sun. Let's see how it will look if we try to rotate it. Yeah, like this. Let's see it from different angles. Like for example, this angle. Yeah, this angle could be good case to study. Yeah, probably lighting is very harsh right now, and we will adjust it. Yeah, directional light, let's keep it like to 30,000. And yeah, less warm, like 3,000. Exponential light fog is still a bit foggy. We can reduce, yeah, we can reduce it a little bit. Or let's try to, if we try to increase the density, now like this is very foggy for sure. Here in directional light, if I'm going to like control the volumetric scattering on its own, I can control it from volumetric scattering intensity like this, set it to like 0.1. And yeah, in a skylight or skydome, let's give it a very blue tint. I'm just adjusting the saturation currently. Like this. I just want to have like more of painterly style. To like, yeah, probably this is a good example. Like this, probably. This is very saturated for sure. And let's try. Yeah, let's try to have it like this. Let's tune the color a little bit. Yeah, to have it more blue, not very, very blue. This is before and after, so it has more saturation now. And let's adjust the fog level a little bit. This is the sunlight. I adjusted the sunlight from 30,000 to 80,000, which is very, very high. And this is not accurate to like actually sunrise or actual sunrise lighting. Should be more like this, but I'm trying to create something which is moody and very dramatic here. Exponential height fog. We can increase the distance a little bit to have it far in distance. And we can increase the extinction scale. This is increasing the extinction scale to make it very foggy. But this is too much. Actually, we can increase, yeah, but not this too fog. Too much fog. Scattering distribution is whether we want our fog to be from the light source like this or distributed evenly. So basic or default value is 0.2, which is good, but let's do it for this scenario 0.8. So we are eliminating the fog coming from here. And yeah, for now, let's set it to like 3. Make it very, very foggy. And it's moody. It's set to 1. Yeah, actually, if it's set to 1, it might look good. Or let's reduce. Let's get the fog density back to the default, or probably a bit higher, like this. So it's very saturated right now, and shadows are starting to become much better. And yeah, in fog, yeah, basic or main settings are the fog density, fog fall off. Fall off controls the blending of the fog. So the higher the distance, the sharper the transition will be. So we can keep it to 0.2 or increase it a little bit. I like this shiny plume coming from the sunlight hitting surfaces, which we can also fix or make it much better. Volumetric fog, I just enabled it and increased that view distance. Or if it's not even increased, we'll not notice because the fog overall for this scene is not very heavy. Skylight is set to basic. If it's set to 0, we'll have no skylight like this. It will be only bounced lighting from the sun. If it's set to 4 or very high values, the reflections will start to be more noticeable, and it's very, very like blue overall. So we can keep it like this, or to eliminate this blue tint, we can give it a bit of orange tint, a little bit, just a little bit like this, and it will eliminate our very blue tint. Or we can keep it and like change it in post-process volume. Let's save to ensure we are good. For post-process volume, let's go for it. We have here, we adjusted the toe, this. As you can see, now the shadows are very, very clipped, so dark with the default values. But we can increase the value a little bit more than 0.3 just to maintain some details in here. And we are doing all of that without touching the minimum exposure value. If we try to like make it a difference, only one stop difference, it will be brighter for sure. And yeah, this is the difference. It will be much, much brighter, absolutely. But we can keep it for now as it is, and if needed, we can adjust later for darker areas. This currently is not very dark. In bloom, of course, there are types of bloom. Let's increase just to see the difference. This is standard bloom, and there is convolution bloom, which is sorry here. Yeah. Convolution bloom is better for more cinematic look, but it's costing more from performance. So as you can see, can make it around 6 probably. If it's a standard, we need to increase the threshold. So a higher number in threshold will make the plume starts from brighter pixels. But that doesn't work with convolution plume. So keep it convolution plume. And let's get down to, I just want to go to the most important options for this session. And later we will discuss all of that in detail because we have spent a lot of time in this session actually. And yeah, local exposure, we can increase the detail strength. This will affect the highlight for sure. But as you can see, like for example, this is 1, this is 1.5. Details are so crisp now. They are very noticeable. So if I try to use it to 1. 0.6, for example. Highlights are so harsh, and we can then decrease this option, blurred luminance blend. Let's decrease it to like 0.4, for example. So this is before and after. As you can see, before it's more of that, like textures are washed out. It's not very detailed. And after is preserving more details in here. Make it more sharp in general. Let's set it to 1.5. And yeah, blurred luminance blend to 0.4. Lens flares, I don't actually use lens flares a lot in Engine. Image effects to add vignette. There is a new option in newer versions to make the image sharper. It's called sharpen. You can increase it. And here in color grading, it's better. Like if you want, for example, to start with temperature to have like specific look overall, we can increase the temperature a little bit to have it warmer, or like a slightly little bit. That tint is to add another color, whether it's green or pink, like this. So probably we can go to pink side, 0.1, yeah, 0.1, 0.3, 0.1 could be good as a base. And for now, in color grading, like to have like a log or a raw image, you can increase like an offset in globally, so you have more information to work with. This is an approach to do. Let's do it. We can increase it like this is too much. Let's do it 0.01. As you can see, I have retrieved more details in there. It's not blown out. It's added, yeah, more values to read in the image. Then we can color grade properly. Then we can start with shadows. Shadows, I love to decrease the saturation of the shadows. So for example, 0.8, probably 0.6 or 0.7. And 0.7 could be good. Maybe 0.6 to have more cinematic look. Let's just move that. Yeah, so it's more cinematic look. This in film, they tend to make it like 0 usually, or add a tint on top of it. So we can set it 0.5, 0.6, just to retrieve some information, not wholly desaturated. In contrast, we can increase the contrast of the shadows. Like for example, 1.1. This we can control either it will be in for going for a specific color like this. Probably it goes towards yellow, so it's adding more blue to the contrast. Yeah, like this. As you can see now, it's a bit bluish, but it's not very blue. Then in the gamma, if you want to add more details in your shadows, you are good to do that. But we don't need to do that in this situation, for example, because it's already very bright. Offset, you can add a specific color if you want for the offset. Like for example, we can go with a bit of blue like this. As you can see, the difference right now could add a bit of, or reduce the bread a little bit as well. But yeah, this is good for me. As you can see now, it is desaturated. With the offset is a bit like blue. I can reduce it actually a little bit. Multiply or divide it by 2. This is good for my taste, actually. Then midtones, highlights. In midtones, I'll have to increase the contrast to have more readable image. Of course, this contrast is too harsh, so we can increase it slightly. Like this. Even lower. And if you increase the gain, like for example, this is the gain difference, it adds more highlights for sure, like kind of highlights here. So you can increase the gain, probably 1.3. Let's turn off the contrast, actually, and just reduce the gain, not the gamma, a little bit. The gamma will not be good because it adds to overall image and it desaturates it. So gain is good. Same goes for highlights. You can add contrast in your highlights. You will notice that the highlights or whites are very white currently, as you can see. And you can do that in the gain as well. But let's keep it as it is now, or just increase the highlights a little bit. Probably this is too much. Probably 1.1 could be good. Here in miscellaneous, the color grading LUT, it's not preferred to be used because it's low dynamic range, and Unreal tries to go with high dynamic range. So it's not preferred to use. Please stay away from it unless you are using it for like testing purposes, and then you will use color grading. This is a preferred approach. And let's go here. Maybe you can increase saturation. This is too much. We can increase saturation a little bit, slightly. Contrast, overall contrast for the scene if we wanted, or a specific color for contrast for the scene. As we go, like this, for example, can actually add slight contrast. And this is the offset if you want to disable it or just make it slight, less lumber like this. And now you have a good looking lighting for this scenario. It's lit even in shadows. You can see the shadows, they are visibly very good. You don't have, and also we are not using exposure. Stops, it's the same. Even if you try to use different exposure values, let's increase the speed up down to 10. This is 10, this is 8. If you try to use it like this, 12, change instantly. But we can keep it at 10. If you want to reduce it, you are, yeah, you can do that for sure. Can get back to local exposure. If we can see that our highlights are very, very high and clipped, we can control the highlight contrast scale like this. Let's set it to 0.8, the default value from Epic Games. With the detail strength. Detail strength, if we reduced it low one, it will give us like paint tree style thing. So we can reduce it a little bit, probably 1.2. And then, yeah, keep the blurred luminance blend. So this is basically about color grading. Here is the slope if we want to increase overall saturation, overall contrast. Shoulder if we want to make our highlights saturated. This we can do that. Let's set it to 0.8. And we still have other options, like, for example, we can control volumetric scattering. Let's keep it to 0.1. We can control indirect lighting scattering. This, it will not affect the scene a lot because we are using physically based values. It's not working properly with very, very high values. So here in Lumen, we can increase these values. It's better to use 4 for lumen scene detail and lumen scene lighting quality. And in advanced options, there is diffuse color boost. If I set it to 2, it should increase the overall scene lumen scene brightness. Let's try 4. See if it works here. Let's go to lumen scene. This is 1, this is 4. As you can see, it increases the overall brightness, but this is not physically accurate. So if you wanted to use it, it's better to stay below 2. You can use it like 1.5 if you want it. And there is a skylight leaking. Skylight leaking is usually good for like eliminate some interiors if you want, instead of adding a lot of local lights. So for example, if you tried 0.1, sorry, 0.2, as you can see here, we can see more skylight data, and it's more visible on reflections as well, as you can see. So it's might be a good option for some cases. You can increase the skylight leaking distance. The higher the distance, the better the quality will be. And here in Lumen Reflections, let's switch it to headlighting for reflections. Let's get back and see if this is affect the scene very drastically. So this is surface cache, this is headlighting for reflections. As you can see, it's not a big of a difference currently. Let's enable this option as well, because it's visible in some water reflections and overall screen traces, but usually it's not very visible in non-reflective environments. So you can set it to default if you want. You just can try it. And yeah, final gather quality, let's increase it a little bit. And then we have some options for image effects, like, of course, ambient occlusion isn't working with Lumen, except for some console variables to be enabled, and then you will be able to use it. But otherwise, other options might be needed is like film grain. Let's add film grain. I love adding film grain. And let's change the size of it. The bigger the size, more noisy, or the bigger the tile size will be. So let's keep it to 0.4. Sorry, the size to 1. The grain intensity, probably 0.5. And I'm not sure if they have any cards in here. Yeah, if you try to then adjust your lighting, make it much better from a specific perspective. Let's try to use a camera. Here, create camera, cinematic camera actor. And yeah, in perspective, cinematic view. And yeah, as you can see, this one, for example, is very good because you are in shadows and lighting is looking really good. I like it. If you try to increase extinction scale, yeah, you can try bunch of different modes. It's totally up to you. As you can see now, it's very dramatic effect and it's very moody. And it might work for some specific modes. Actually, you can try whatever mode you want. Pilot, it doesn't. Yeah, test camera. Let's try this test camera. They have a lot of cameras. I'll set it to DSLR and I want to crop it, or let's have a very high lens. Probably let's try 30, and I want to crop it to have it like vertically. So it's in crop settings, probably 4:3, or yeah, let's try it like this. This is not actually correct for sure, but I'm just want to get it really quickly. Yeah, like this. We can then start adjusting our, this actually looks good. Can start adjusting a little bit in our liquid exposure, increase the shadow contrast. Let's set it to 0.7, 0.8, 0.7 could be good. 0.7. Detail strength if you want to increase it. Contrast scale like this. Let's get back to directional light. We can make the skylight blow up, skybox blow up. And we can then make a separate work or separate value for our skylight. Yeah, if it's set, this is 2,000. And if it's set to 10,000, yeah, that actually a bit Bentley style. If we try 2,000, 20,000 or 15,000 probably. And the skylight now is proceeding or using actually, of course, this sky. So we can switch to specified cube map. This is not accurate for physically based approaches. It's better for BBL, it's better to use captured scene to capture from the sky. But if I try to use this one and added like a gray texture, can then start controlling my sky as I want. So it's like this. It's gray. Yeah, it's 1,000, and I can pick like a color from the sky and make it like this. So it's totally different. So yeah, this is probably like an approach that you can test. I know it might look different from basic lighting approaches, but yeah, you can test it for sure and see how will it look, how you could proceed with that to get your own preferred lighting setups. This is how like you should approach your lighting scenarios to test multiple things, try different or a lot of things in here. Like for this one is looking really good. Yeah, let's see different cameras. Probably like this one is good as well. Yeah, you can have a lot of different cameras to test and try. This, for example, it has very good transition between light and shadow. It's not very sharp and it looks very, very cool. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. Basically, we are now 3.5 hours. So let's go for any questions while I'm switching between cameras so we can wrap up this session. Any questions? Silence means it's good.
No questions, Karim.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah, we are processing actually.
Yeah,
So
because
this approach works for all type of the skies which you have mentioned in the Fab library. Those we can try, right?
the matte painting skyboxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can try it.
Mm.
It will look much, much better. This sky is flat and it doesn't have any details. And it is very, very flat, so it's not perfect. So yeah,
Mm.
it will be much better with matte painting sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Actually, I was concerned because no questions means it, maybe it's not good or it's too good or too perfect that it doesn't have any questions. Yeah,
It
because
was good, Karim.
yeah, thank you. I might miss any points or not explain some points very clearly. That's why questions are very important to understand more what is going on.
yeah, maybe we get while start working on that, so we'll have a lot of questions, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
Right now we got the details to, process and get it to be done.
Yeah.
Still, we are trying to understand because you achieved it in a matter of seconds. Oh,
Yeah, you'll have the record. I'll upload it
yeah,
right
yeah.
after the session. So yeah, I'm
We
hoping
need
for
this.
the yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, I think that's it for our first session. Um, it's very detailed, yeah, for the first session, and there is still a lot to come later for the upcoming sessions with other scenes because this one is a bit limited actually with these settings they are using with Substrate and the project itself. So yeah, hopefully other projects will be much better to have more freedom and flexibility. So yeah, that's it for my first session, and hope to see you guys all next week. And yeah, we will like decide which time because I want actually to have all people in one session, and it will be very hard to repeat the exact same information in the next like or the other version of the session. So it might be better for them to rewatch it. So I want to have everyone live and not just watching pre-recorded version. But yeah, even if you have any questions, yeah, you are absolutely free to ask at any time. So excited for it. And yeah, I hope you guys learned something useful.
Yeah.
A lot, Karim.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you. I can have one suggestion for in Discord. Can we actually create a separate room for questions? I'm sure we have lots of technical questions, so maybe it would be good to have everything in one spot.
Yeah, on Discord.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a channel called QA, R1G1 QA. It's forum. So you can
Oh,
post it as a
okay.
forum. Yeah, it's much
I
better
see.
to have the questions in there. So we
Okay,
can,
awesome.
yeah, get back to it later and we'll be better in answering all of them. Yeah, so thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll stop recording and we'll upload. We'll ping you once it's ready. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you
Awesome.
next
Thank
week.
you,
Thank you,
Karim.
Thank
Karim.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.